There comes a time in your life, quiet, unseen by the world, when everything is on the line. You won't hear alerts. There will be no applause. No one will know it's occurring except you. It can be late at night, alone with your thoughts. It may be when failure grabs you so closely you can't breathe. And at that time you'll be confronted with a quiet decision. Do you keep going, or do you quit? And here's the terrible part. Most people stop. Not because they're weak, not because they're lazy, but because their brains tells them that leaving is survival, that giving up is rational, that retreat is safer than perseverance. But what if I told you your brain is lying to you? What if I told you that every time you stop, something within you dies? Not your dream, your confidence, your identity, your determination to fight. This speech isn't simply about motivation. It's about psychological warfare, the conflict between who you are now and who you were born to become. If you quit, you lose, and if you listen on, you simply may learn how to win. The hidden war inside the mind. The human mind is a struggle between two forces, the temptation to withdraw and the instinct to push ahead. This mental tug-of-war is continual. Psychology calls it the tension between the limbic system, the emotional, survival-driven portion of your brain, and the prefrontal cortex, which regulates logical reasoning, planning, and goal setting. When you're presented with a challenge, whether it's establishing a new company, combating addiction, or just pushing through the discomfort of a morning workout, these two systems conflict. One says, stop, it's too hard, it hurts. The other says, keep going. There's something bigger on the other side. What decides the outcome? Discipline, belief, identity, and above all, resilience, the psychology of quitting. Let's speak about what quitting truly is. Quitting isn't just ceasing. We all need to relax, recoup, evaluate. That's clever. Quitting is different. Quitting is the purposeful choice to relinquish a goal due of fear, discomfort, or perceived failure. Psychologically, quitting is typically connected to fear of failure, the assumption that if you can't ensure success, it's better not to attempt. Imposter syndrome, the inner voice that whispers, you're not good enough. Who do you think you are? Perfectionism, the mistaken assumption that if it's not perfect, it's not worth doing. Learned helplessness, a conviction established after repeated failures that nothing you do will alter the result. These attitudes undermine potential. They build mental prisons. And the scariest part? They masquerade themselves as logic, as sensible choices, as it's just not the right time. But below that shroud lurks a deeper truth. Fear triumphed. And when fear triumphs, you lose. What happens when you quit? Let's look at what occurs within your brain when you stop. Neuroscientific research demonstrates that each time you quit a goal, your brain gets rewired to anticipate less of you. It establishes a neuronal channel of retreat. You educate your thinking that pain equals danger, that resistance means failure, that effort equals futility. In contrast, when you push through, your brain produces dopamine, not only when you succeed but every time you make progress. This reward chemical promotes motivation. It encourages action. It creates what psychologist Angela Duckworth calls grit, the single most significant predictor of long-term success. Quitting starves your confidence. It undermines your will. It generates a feedback cycle of uncertainty and regret. The cost? Your dreams, your purpose, your potential. The myth of the overnight success. Psychology also tells us that we're predisposed for immediacy. The human brain likes quick satisfaction over delayed benefits. This is termed temporal discounting. It's why we consume junk food instead of creating a nutritious supper. It's why we browse endlessly instead of producing anything important. It's also why we stopped, because the path to greatness is lengthy. It's grueling, and it typically offers nothing back in the beginning. But every successful person you admire, every champion, innovator, artist, leader, had one thing in common. They kept trying when it seemed meaningless. They recognized something fundamentally psychological. If you keep coming up, you outlive doubt. You outgrow fear. You outperform skill. You don't have to be the brightest, strongest, or most talented. You simply have to be the last one standing. Real-life psychological case studies. Let me give you a few instances. Thomas Edison, he failed 1,000 times before creating the light bulb. When asked why he didn't leave, he answered, "I have not failed. I've just uncovered 1,000 methods that won't work." That's not simply optimism, that's psychological reframing. It's turning failure into feedback. J.K. Rowling, before Harry Potter established a worldwide empire, she was rejected by 12 publishers, was impoverished, despondent, and suicidal. But she continued writing. She believed in the narrative more than the rejection. Michael Jordan, cut from his high school basketball team. Most would quit. He used it as gasoline. "I've failed over and over and over again in my life," he remarked, "and that is why I succeed." What do they all have in common? They didn't quit. And since they didn't stop, they didn't lose. The biology of perseverance. Let's go further into the biology. The anterior cingulate cortex is the portion of your brain that helps you recognize conflict and push through hardship. It lights up when you're doing something hard, particularly when you're inclined to stop. With practice, it grows stronger. Think of it like a muscle. The more you confront suffering and continue ahead regardless, the more strong this area grows. It generates a biological resistance to quitting up. You start to build what top performers call a tolerance for pain, the capacity to bear suffering for the purpose of improvement. This is not only mental toughness, it's neuroplasticity, your brain physically altering itself around perseverance, the identity of a fighter. But here's the underlying psychological truth. Quitting isn't merely an action. It becomes an identity. When you stop frequently, your brain builds a narrative. I'm the kind of person who gives up when it's hard. And whether you recognize it or not, you begin to behave in accordance with that notion. But if you push through, even just once, your brain records a different story. I'm the kind of person who fights, who turns up, who refuses to back down. And your conduct begins to accord with that new identity. In psychology, this is known as self-perception theory. Your acts form your beliefs, which in turn determine your future actions. So if you want to become unstoppable, don't wait till you feel driven. Take the action first. Prove to your brain that you're a warrior, that you are not someone who quits. Because once you wear that persona, leaving seems alien. Pain is the path. Let's be clear, the trip is hard. Pain is real. Rejection hurts. Failure hurts. But that's the road. There is no other. The science of growth, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental, requires stress followed by recuperation. The battle is not the enemy. It's the very thing that makes you powerful. Psychologist Carol Dweck proposed the notion of the growth mindset, the view that ability is not fixed but can be enhanced through effort. People with a development attitude don't fear failure. They accept it as the price of becoming. That's why when you stop, you not only lose the goal, you lose the person you may have been. Your mind is lying to you, and here's the kicker. Your mind lies to you. It informs you, this isn't worth it. You're not good enough. You'll never make it. But that voice isn't truth, it's protection. It's your brain attempting to shelter you from emotional suffering, from humiliation, from danger. But excellence exists beyond that comfort zone. And the only way to quiet that voice up is to act against it. Do it anyhow, in the face of uncertainty, in the face of terror. Because every time you do, that voice becomes weaker, and your confidence becomes greater. So what's the solution? Let me leave you with psychologically established techniques to improve resilience. Micro goals. Break enormous aspirations into little, doable victories. Each victory releases dopamine and fosters conviction. Daily habits. Discipline overcomes motivation. Motivation diminishes. Habits remain. Journaling. Writing down your problems and victories rewires your brain and illuminates your path. Visualize success. Mental practice lights up the same brain areas as actual action. Train your brain to anticipate winning. Surround yourself with grit. Environment determines behavior. Be with folks that never quit. Reframe failure. Every setback is a setup. Failure is data. Use it. Never bargain with fear. Decide your purpose. Then commit. Fully. Emotionally. Unconditionally. You quit. You lose. When you feel like quitting, remember this. You're not exhausted. You're being tested. The discomfort is transitory. The battle is seasonal. But quitting? Quitting is forever. Success doesn't go to the most gifted. It belongs to the most determined. The ones that refuse to lie down. The ones who show up even when no one's watching. The ones who fall 7 times and rise 8. You quit, you lose. But if you climb one more time, you won. Don't you dare stop. Your future is waiting.